I do not want to recognize myself 1 year from today. I want to be so unrecognizable internally as well as my external life that I almost wonder who is this version of me right now recording this video. If that is you, if you are ready to blow up your life, your identity, the way of being, to catapult yourself into a completely new universe, this video is for you. I'm going to break down exactly how I've done this process multiple times over the last 15 years. I went from someone who was a shy introvert, completely insecure, doubting her power, lived by my inner critic voice, to someone who now has a platform of hundreds of thousands of people globally. I am a paid speaker. I am a coach. I am in my power and aligned, and something tells me that I've just scratched the surface. In this video, I'm going to break down the key shifts and decisions that I have had to make every single time I am ready to quantum leap, to make my life unrecognizable from what it was just 3 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago. To make this really clear, I want to make sure that you understand the connection between what is your current reality and your current identity. Your identity is composed of the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that run in the background and foreground of your day every single day. It's what you think about when you're sleeping, when you're eating, when you're in front of a room of strangers. It is that inner voice that gets really loud when you go to stretch beyond your current identity. When you start acting out of norm, your current identity starts yelling and screaming, no, this is not safe, abort mission. That is exactly why so many of us, especially anyone that is an entrepreneur or desires to create a business, a vision that is bigger than yourself, when you go to start wanting to share your vision, your impact, your confidence, your clarity, to sell your services, you freeze. Because there is a current identity that tells you, who do you think you are? And if you follow everything I'm going to share with you in this video, 12 months from now, you're going to understand that you are exactly who you think you are. So many people will never create the life of their dreams, not because they're not capable, but simply because they are not willing to go through the discomfort, the stretch that requires you to become a completely new version of yourself, a version of yourself who is no longer making decisions based on fear, insecurities, old evidence, and is simply aligned with trusting that this is just who I am now. One of the first things that I do when I want to become unrecognizable is I create my anchor decision. This is what is going to be the domino effect, that once I decide this, all the other areas of my life have no choice but to shift. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that my anchor decision in this season of my life is to be running a business that generates $10 million of revenue every single year. Now, most people hear that and they're just like, oh, okay, so she just wants to make more money. Yes, but no. The $10 million a year version of myself, when I think about who that is, I can close my eyes, I can physically connect to who that version of me is, and I know that there is a gap between how I'm showing up today, who I'm being, what I believe about myself, and how she shows up, what she believes about herself, how she introduces herself, how she walks into a room. So when you're thinking about creating your anchor decision, I want you to choose something, and again, it does not matter what area of life that you choose, because even when I choose the $10 million a year business version of myself, that is trickling over to how I show up as a mom, as a wife, for myself, for my health. I take care of my body. I work out every single day. I am someone who is supported, who embraces ease and flow, who allows fear to be present, but is not driven by fear. This is why I say it doesn't really matter what decision you choose, because I could have chosen that I am someone that is healthy and fit, and that could still be aligned with an increase in my business. So go with the decision that is going to allow you to have a clear vision of who this version of you is in every single area of their life. Once you've made that anchor decision, you now have to go to an extreme. And not everyone is going to agree with me about this, but I'm telling you, every big up level that I've ever had has come from locking into an extreme level. The first time in my business that I had a 6-figure month, $178,000 to be exact, I brainwashed myself for 2+ months straight. I only listened to affirmation videos, Bob Proctor, Abraham Hicks, Amanda Francis, that were telling me that I'm a multimillionaire, that money comes to me easily and effortlessly, that I receive an abundance of money every single day from multiple streams of income. I was obsessive. It was extreme. I didn't listen to the radio. I unfollowed everyone on social media. I refused to look at the news or anything that was going to take me out of this understanding. And let's be clear, the brainwashing period, the period of being extreme, is not forever. But if you want to break an old identity, which is really just a habit, you've just practiced being this version of yourself for far too long that you believe the lie that it's you. So if you want to break that, you have got to go extreme until you can stabilize to get back to some semblance of this is just who I am now. So when I was listening to those affirmations for 8+ hours a day of my waking hours, I started to actually believe it before anything changed in my bank account. And less than 3 months later, I had a 10x month in my business. I do not think that's a coincidence, but I want to tell you what happened after. I panicked because no one talks about when you become a different version of yourself, you not only have to shift what you believe is possible, but you also have to shift what you believe it's safe to receive. A lot of us talk about wanting to have more visibility, wanting to have more love, wanting to have more money. But if the money, the love, the visibility, the 100,000 followers showed up at your door right now, so many of you would actually push it away. I learned this very quickly when in 1 month I'd made more than I used to make an entire year, and it was gone very shortly after. Internally, my nervous system panicked. But what that taught me is if I can do that once, I can do it again. And so I started doing the work of now making it safe to receive abundance, money, to not attaching money and being filthy rich as being dirty. Because let's be honest, we are trained to believe that having money, having abundance is a bad thing. Another example of this extreme, if you've been following me this past year, you've probably heard of my 30-day Delulu sprints, where I do these 10 things every single day for a 30-day sprint to lock into a Delulu decision that I'm making. And here is what I can tell you. When I do these 10 things every day, I'm not doing it for the rest of my life. Now I don't need to do the 10 things because I've anchored into the identity. But when I am not anchored into my Delulu decision, I absolutely lock into doing these 10 things every day. People ask me all the time, that's a lot. How do you have time for it? I make the time. It is a non-negotiable. I don't care if I only spend 5 minutes on each thing. I have decided. And so I need that 30-day sprint to allow myself to step into the version of me who's already on the other side, to be a completely new version of myself, to become unrecognizable. One of the clearest ways that I can see how I really do not recognize myself from 10 years ago is that I used to be extremely shy. I was introverted. I was the most insecure person in the room. When I would walk into a room full of strangers, every single part of me was comparing how I was dressed, how I looked, my body, whether I was cool enough. I always felt like the nerdy kid that didn't get invited to the popular crew. Well, guess what? If you want to grow a business and a brand online, being the shy introvert identity doesn't really work. And so I had to decide to break that habit. And how did I do it? By being extreme. I started signing up for 3 to 4 networking events every single week. And I would force myself to introduce myself to 5 to 10 new people. I could not leave the event until I'd introduced myself to those people. Now, let's be honest. The first 5 or 6 events, I stumbled through it. I was awkward. I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable in myself. But at a certain point, it started to feel natural. I started to actually enjoy it. The most recent example of when I've done this is this past month. I decided that I no longer desire to be someone who is going to be fit and healthy, because when I think about my $10 million business version of myself, she just is. It's not a diet plan. It's not a temporary exercise sprint. This is just what she does. She actually loves working out. A month ago, I would have told you working out sounds like the worst thing to do right now. Today, I can tell you that for the last 33 days, I have worked out twice a day, 6 days a week. Now, again, I locked into an extreme version of myself. I do not recognize myself from 5 weeks ago. So imagine what I could create if I locked in for the next 12 months. Imagine what you could create if you locked in for the next 12 months. With becoming unrecognizable, there is a level of vulnerability that you're gonna have to embrace, because people are gonna see you shifting in rapid speed. And as you shift, the old self, the old stories, the old identity is going to go kicking and screaming. It is not gonna like when you start to speak up for yourself, when you start to show that you are actually confident and clear. It is going to scream to you, you don't know what you're saying, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. And every single day, I have to choose to allow those thoughts to just be thoughts and no longer become beliefs that I now believe are the truth of who I am. Even as I'm recording this video, there is always a part of me when I go to record content, when I go to share a video, that feels like, who do you think you are? Why do you think people will be interested in your story or what you have to say or what you know to be true for yourself? What if someone doesn't like it? What if this video is going to be the one that flops this month and everyone's going to see that you got way less views, and maybe they're going to wonder, is she washed up? Does no one want to hear what she has to say? But I have to choose to hear those thoughts and recognize that that is just the old self that is scared to let go, that is scared to become a version of myself who, before I get the validation, the views, the likes, the money, the clients, the success has already decided that this is just who I am now. And so those old stories and inner critics and fears and self-doubts, they can be there. They can yap all they want. But I, the truth of who I am, the version of myself that I'm deciding to embrace, to remember, to step into, is in the driver's seat. If you know that you're on the cusp of something greater than where you currently are, your current circumstances, your current business, your current income level, I want to invite you on this challenge with me. I want to invite you to, one, get clear on what is my anchor Delulu decision. What am I deciding is what I'm calling into my life now. That's going to be the domino effect for every single area of my life. How I show up in friendships, how I show up in community, how I make an impact for community, my health, my wellness, my spirituality, all gets to shift to become the version of me that I keep calling future me, but really is just available to me right now, and be able to look back 1 year from today and say, whoa, I don't know that person anymore. I'm hosting an event this month for 15 entrepreneurs in West Hollywood, California, where we're going to be doing this and so much more. We're going to be getting clear on the thoughts, the beliefs, the fears that have been keeping them stuck, that have them replaying old stories, that have them playing small and afraid to take the big risk that really the version of them already on the other side would just say, hey, this is just what I do. I'm going to have my eyes on your business, giving you feedback. We're going to work through your next steps, because honestly, what I find after having supported over 2,000 entrepreneurs in the last 9 years is not only do some people fake confusion because really they're just afraid of choosing the wrong decision, but the wrong decision is just a decision that you haven't made yet. But we're also just waiting for permission. We're waiting for other people to validate the idea. But if you don't believe in you, if you haven't validated yourself first, no amount of outside validation or critique will ever be enough. If you want to be inside of the room, click the link in my description below. We are having people come in from all over. I would love nothing more than to help you break through to your next level. This room is going to go deep. We're going to get vulnerable. There will absolutely be tears, but there's also going to be a lot of fun. And even hosting this event is another version of me stepping into who I know I'm here to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I have hosted events for 8 years, and that in itself was a muscle that I had to choose to build. My very first event, I was terrified. I was awkward. I was nervous. I was second guessing every single decision. So while now the logistics of it is much easier, there's still a stretch that I put on myself every single time. How am I showing up in the room? I remember when I decided that I was going to be a public speaker that was paid to speak on stages. I decided to stop waiting for other people's stages and create my own. I created my very first event where I wasn't going to be teaching just strategy. I was going to be talking a lot about what I share on this channel, identity. And inside of that event, the morning of, I lost my voice. I don't think that's a coincidence. That was every part of my old identity kicking and screaming and saying, oh my gosh, you're going to allow yourself to be seen in this vulnerable way. You're going to do mirror work in front of a room full of strangers. You're going to share some of your deepest failures and insecurities with people. You're not going to have slides and a PowerPoint and hide behind strategy. I was terrified. And I can tell you that the breakthroughs that happened in that room were some of the most life-changing breakthroughs that my clients have ever had. I'm going to show you a video from that event because I want you to see in the video, you're going to see someone really confident, really knowing what she's doing, owning the room, and feedback from clients that seem like that's the case. I can tell you that I had a panic attack throughout the entire 2 days.
If you are considering working with Natanya in the future, you are going to have to get uncomfortable. She teaches her clients how to thrive outside of their comfort zone, but also really getting deeply aligned with the authentic version of you.
It's different from any other coach that I've ever experienced. She allows herself to be really vulnerable. She is not ashamed to talk about her failures.
It's not traditional. Her work is just what you need. She's very intentional, very deliberate.
Working with her, yes, you work on your business, but you also work on yourself.
What Natanya does so effortlessly is creating these spaces where women can show up vulnerable. This is the first time I've worked with a coach that I felt like cared about me. Not my business or my metrics or the income or how many people showed up to this, like, how are you doing?
In that video, you don't know that I'm freaking out because I decided. I decided to become a version of myself that is unrecognizable. And taking myself to that extreme of putting myself in the room, of deciding I am a speaker now. I don't have to hide behind strategies and slides and decks and making everything perfect. I can show up authentically, vulnerably, was the hardest and easiest thing I've ever done. It was easy because it simply was me getting out of my own way. So many of you are sitting on your brilliance, on your ideas, on your creativity because you're waiting for permission. You're waiting for permission to show up as a version of you who already believes and trusts that you are enough. That no matter what the outcome, no matter what the response is, you are good. I want to invite you to do a few things today. If you are ready to not recognize yourself in the 12 months that are about to follow, I want you to film a 2-minute video. Inside of that video, you are going to answer these 3 questions. Who have I been showing up as? Who is the version of me that I'm currently living as that is responsible for my current reality? Who am I ready to step into for the next 12 months? How does she think? How does she speak? What does she believe about herself? And what am I no longer available for? What shrinking, what decisions, what relationships, what hiding are you leaving behind? And then I want you to create your Delulu decision anchor. Again, this is your guidepost for the next 12 months. And from that, I want you to create your own version of a 30-day extreme sprint. Whether you're going to brainwash yourself, you might do the Delulu sprint. That's linked below in my description. You have got to do something to shock your system to know that this is just who I am now. And if you're having trouble tapping into who this version of you is, check out my free Future You visualization linked below so that you can meet the you on the other side. If you're committed to being unrecognizable, drop in the comments and let me know unrecognizable so that I can cheer you on. I hope to see some of you at my event later this month, and I cannot wait to see you on the next video.